Frank Show, what? The Frank Show, come on, the Frank Show, what? The Frank Show, come on, the Frank Show, what? The Frank Show, come on, Frank Show. It's time for the show.
Hey, what's good, y'all? Frank here. I got a bit of a fun video for today. Now, I don't know if you've noticed this. You most likely have, and I can tell that my audience from YouTube stats skews a bit older, so there's a chance you don't play, but Gorilla Tag. Have you tried this game? What are your thoughts on this game is really how we start this out. I'd love to hear your opinion, but something I'm noticing in a big trend across VR games is we're getting a lot of, I would call them slightly Gorilla Tag clones, although I wouldn't say that Gorilla Tag kind of came up with this motion movement concept, but I'm seeing a lot of games copy that after its success. Now, the Steam charts for Gorilla Tag and the numbers do not lie. There were tons and tons of people playing this game, but when I do hop on, I do see just a lot of kids playing. So another question I have is, if you have kids or you're a kid, where'd you get your headset from? Because it does feel like most of these people are under 12, under 10, some probably around that age. It's impossible for me to guess from just a voice, but I can just assume from how high and just kind of what they're saying and the speed of everything that it's very young kids. So we got a lot of young kids playing VR, which in my opinion is a great thing, because that means that the next generation is already hyped on VR, which starts that train. And like I said, I already know that it's the future. I see it in the kids. We see the numbers. We know how much they like it. So it's only going to continue going from there. Yes. One point there. Now, another point that I would make to this whole thing is that I think a lot of this was done in the past. So Servios, in my opinion, did a lot for kind of like really like heavy movement based stuff. It wasn't completely the same, but they had a lot of these same techniques, movement systems, this and that, stuff that they were building on. But if I recall correctly, a lot of the vibes around that was that people were a little overwhelmed by it, exhausted by it. And I wonder if that was just because at that time it was just an older base of players playing and they weren't so hyped on doing as much in VR. Then we saw this big wave of fitness apps. We saw Beat Saber come, people really start moving a lot more. We see other fitness apps taking off. Supernatural's another one. And so we've moved into this era of more physical. Then Gorilla Tag comes out of nowhere, this game that seems like, I'm pretty sure it was like one guy put it together, but fantastic movement, fantastic kind of presence to it, and kids really strapped to it. And since then, I mean, I would argue that even games like Underdogs kind of steal their love or saw what was happening in Gorilla Tag and brought that to kind of a more older version. I played a game called Monkey Poo yesterday that was literally just like Gorilla Tag, except you can swing on vines and you're throwing poo. So an even more kind of kiddie-fied version of it, but less of an impact on just the tag. I think people aren't really stealing that. They're stealing more the movement system, which is fine. Pawball, which is another one coming from Arvore, is like a mix between, in my opinion, like Gorilla Tag and Rocket League, where you're jumping as a cat and you're swinging around and using that same kind of vibe movement system. So my big question is, what are your thoughts on this now? Because previously, like I said, when we covered the Servios games in the past, and I had people that would react to me, they were tired of moving their arms and shaking and this and that. I don't really know how you feel, if you think this trend will continue, what your opinion on it all is. I love the immersiveness of it. I think that because you're moving your body so much and you're going around with the similar vibe to Beat Saber, as you get into this flow, and especially if it's a social app and you're just joking around and communicating, you almost forget where you are, which I guess is probably the best thing to VR, and one of my favorite things of all. Like, I'll take my headset off after a couple sessions and it's like, oh wow, a couple hours have gone past, and there's not a lot of things that I can do that doing, so that's really, really cool. But yes, I am noticing, and I'm sure a lot of you are noticing, a trend of more and more games that are kind of taking their DNA from this. I'm sure there are a ton more that I don't even know about or I haven't seen that have probably tried it, but these are some of the big ones that I'm noticing out there. So yeah, I think that's something cool. I think it's interesting to see. Like I said, the more kids we get in VR, the more people we get in VR, the better. The younger, the better, really. I don't know if I don't have kids, so I don't know how I would feel in that position. My mom was one of those parents that was like, no video games ever for my child. And then my dad was working 14-hour days, and she got pregnant with my sister, and it was like, well, what are we gonna do? And I got a Sega Genesis. And so I grew up loving Sonic and playing those kind of games. And then she was pretty hardcore about no first-person shooters. So I was just playing like fun, goofy, silly games until maybe, I think I got Conker's Bad Fur Day snuck in there at one point in time because she had no idea what was going on. I got lucky there. But until probably like high school, I don't think I even tried a COD or a first-person shooter. And now look at where we are today, which is nuts. But yeah, so I don't know if I'd let my kid jump into VR. Maybe basic, simple, fun stuff, but I don't know if I'd let them jump in and play Gorilla Tag all day from what I've experienced in it. I mean, it's not bad, but it's a little like overwhelming and overstimulating. Yeah. So thoughts, opinions, light went out. So, I mean, that's pretty much the note to go. Thank you all for coming through. My name's Frank. You're the best. And as always, friggin' subscribe. I mean, come on. Nah. Smudge.